We can start now. There we go. And we are live here
Okay.
in Bozeman, Montana. And you are, first of all, I want to introduce you. Your name is Peter Sveen.
Yep.
And you are here, you are the founder of DIY Pete. And DIY Pete is it's kind of like a company and YouTube channel where you are helping people understand how to better do their projects, right? Their do-it-yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a source of inspiration to get someone, who maybe hasn't had a tool in their hand before, or maybe they've done plenty of projects, but just to get them out there in that garage and making something using their hands.
Because, I've had a little bit of experience with do-it-yourself stuff and with making musical instruments and things like that. And ultimately, what matters most is you get started. And you're going to mess up. You're going to have scraps and you're going to make mistakes. But
Absolutely.
You just got to, pick up a hammer and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of that age-old saying, it's one step at a time. And that's really what it is. It's just the hardest thing is, figuring out what project you're going to do and then just, getting out there and getting to it.
Awesome. And you were telling me right before we started taping about a trip that you just took.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that trip.
Well, the trip was really similar to something that you're doing. It's to get to meet your fans and your audience and to kind of grow that in-person community.
Yeah.
And so I started out in Bozeman, and I went west first. It was not very nice weather, but I got out to as far west as Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, yeah. I know Bellingham.
And it was...
Yeah, that's where Mount Baker is.
Exactly. Yep. And, I didn't necessarily have everything planned out. I'm not somebody that always has a plan. I kind of like to be spontaneous.
Okay.
And so the evening before I had a project planned, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I posted on Instagram that I was looking for somebody to do a project with.
Yeah.
And a young man contacted me and said he was sailing from Alaska all the way to Chile.
That's where I grew up.
No way.
Yeah, I grew up in Chile, yeah.
I would love to visit there someday.
Yeah.
And he was taking a pit stop. He was kind of working with some other people, just taking some odd jobs.
Yeah.
And he needed a mount for his solar panel.
Okay.
And so we built that the next day. But then, I continued on as far south as I went through Austin, Texas, actually.
Wow.
And
from Bellingham, that's a long drive from Bellingham, Washington.
I did. And then I went as far east as Pensacola, Florida.
So
I put
and you did that in the trailer you have outside?
Right, I did 8,100 miles.
Wow.
In 30 days. It was a lot.
That's amazing. So, you definitely beat the crap out of me because this trip I'm doing, I think, 3,500. And I did almost 4,000 the last one, but those are two different trips.
Yeah. And to be honest, I wouldn't do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would take a shorter route and really spend a little bit more time getting to meet others in each community.
It's funny you say that because I took the exact same thing away from mine. The first tour I did was 21 days, and I think I did 17 or 18 cities and 30 shows.
That's a lot.
And I was packing up every single day and packing, unpacking, new place, driving, shows and packing, unpacking. So this time I'm only doing 5 places.
I think that's...
And I'm here for a longer period of time and I'm getting to know people in Bozeman and it's been great.
And you can kind of relax. You don't constantly have to be editing and working in the evenings too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of
sometimes. To a certain point, right?
To a certain point. Awesome. What inspired you to start doing this? I mean, it's such a cool thing. Your channel is so cool, and there's so many projects there that I want to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And what inspired you to start doing this?
Well, I love to create with my hands, and I had another business that I do still run, but it just wasn't challenging me in the way that I wanted to be challenged.
What's the other business?
It's called Think Entrepreneurship, and it's a resource for small business owners. And I, like I said, I do still have that, but I wanted to kind of document the tutorials. I had friends asking, Pete, how did you build this desk? Or, do you have any tips for me? Can you come over to my garage and help me?
Yeah.
And so I do help a lot of my friends, but it got to a point where, I just kind of thought, well, boy, if I want to help a lot more people, I could start making plans and just putting them in a PDF that somebody can download.
Sure.
And then doing videos. And the video thing is what really caught on, at least with my audience, and is what has worked the best.
So how did you start growing your audience? Initially, I mean, it must have been, you have this as a creator. I can relate to this. You put all your heart and soul into something, and then you put it out there, and then you're like, How have you successfully grown your audience? How big is your audience today?
I have 170,000 YouTube subscribers.
That's amazing. And what's that process been like? What have you done?
It's been a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
But a lot of research goes into what projects to do. It's not just what I need at my home or what I want to build, but a lot of times it's going into the search trends on YouTube and Google and seeing what people are searching for. So one of my biggest projects that got me going was a dining table. Everybody needs a dining table in their home.
Is that the concrete one? No,
this is actually it's all wooden one.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a beginner project somebody can jump into and build that they're going to be so proud of. And so that kind of got me started. And then I think just being consistent about getting an output of new projects has been important. And
how often do you publish?
So it kind of depends. Like I'm not as consistent as I should be, but it's about once a month right now.
Okay.
Cool. And with a new project I have with a little remodel, there's going to be a lot of
there's
new
a
projects.
slight echo here, and the reason for that is that we're sitting in an amazing house that you have here. And how many acres is it again?
It's 10 acres.
10 acres in beautiful Montana, where we have like the beautiful view of the mountains on 3 sides at least. Yeah. So what you're going to be documenting the remodel of the house we're sitting in right now, right?
Exactly. So I purchased a home that needs a lot of work, and that's something I get so excited about.
You did it by design. You're like, I want something.
Yep. I wanted land, but I knew the house wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be yet. But that's always something you can, especially with a little DIY background, you can make it yours.
Yeah.
And so, it's been a lot of work so far. I've only had it for about 3 weeks, but I'm tearing it all down and getting down to the roots of it and rebuilding. So,
No, I mean, I can just tell. I can see the vision, and it's going to be awesome.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I'll have to come back and check it out. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about, before we dig in deeper, like at a more fundamental level, in an increasingly digital world, what do you see as the importance of working with your hands, right? And you have people like Mike Rowe from Micro Works who talks a lot about the importance of the trades, the importance of doing work with your hands. To me, doing things with my hands has been transformational as a human being. But what does that mean to you?
To me, it kind of means slowing down. When I get out in the shop and I get to creating, I feel just relaxed and like stress-free. All that stress that builds up on a daily basis kind of goes away. And so it kind of, and it's things, it makes me think of family, because I grew up with my dad helping me out in the shop. And so getting to, build projects with him as a kid inspired me to continue doing it, throughout my life. But it really makes me think of family and just kind of slowing down and realizing we live in a great place, and we like to be able to make and create something from scratch, from a raw material, and then to be able to have it for decades, something like a dining table. I mean, that's something that I'll have in my kitchen, and I can hopefully pass it on to my kids someday. Yeah. And so it's passing on your legacy too.
That's awesome. So just making things that are tangible, right? Yeah, actually, I just brought up this song in the last episode I did at Mystery Ranch, but there's a song by Guy Clark called "Stuff That Works." You should listen to it.
I will.
Guy Clark is a great Texas songwriter. He recently passed, but
okay,
it's awesome. Cool. So what are some of the? I bet you a big part of this, the satisfaction you get out of doing this comes from the feedback you get from the community, right? So maybe somebody who hadn't ever done anything, who sends you an email or a picture or a video of something they did. What's your connection to your audience, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, every time I put a new project out, I'm always getting feedback on it. But the more and more, folks find out about the videos, the more people I get to hear from. And it's what keeps me going. I mean, it's why I do what I do, is because I hear this feedback, both positive and there's some negative as well. Yeah. But I mean,
what's some of the best testimonials we've gotten, and what's some of the negative?
Sure. So one good one. So I get a lot of folks who are veterans, people who have maybe had PTSD, and then a lot of older folks as well, who maybe have been, gotten that spark to get back into woodworking after taking 30 years off. But yeah, I had a guy I know that was really, really struggling and thinking about, just not knowing if he had a reason to live. And he told me that his project and this was just a desk that he built. It was the first that got him started, and now he has a whole business doing woodworking.
Wow.
And I have a lot of folks that, they get into this and then they're like, wow, I really like it, and they start selling it, and maybe they start selling some of their stuff and giving it away to charities to make money. So people are using like their DIY skills for the better, and that's really neat.
So that's like the ultimate teaching people how to fish kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's so cool, and there's a lot of times like I'd have no idea that it affected somebody in that way, but then I get that little email, and it lights up my day and my week.
That's awesome. What are some of the negative feedback you've gotten?
I hear from a lot of folks who are more fine woodworkers, I would say. And some of the techniques that I use are more geared toward beginners. And so I'll have people slam me and say, those are just the worst joints, and, like I would have done this way differently.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of feedback like that, which I learn from, and I think that it helps me improve as far as, figuring out who my audience really is, and then figuring out ways that I can cater towards some of those people that are more into those finer techniques as well.
Sure. Interesting. So have you changed some of the approach and some of the techniques that you use in the show because of that? Or is it more like, well, you're probably not my audience if you're a master craftsman with 25 years experience?
Yeah, well, they might not be my audience, but, I have a lot of non-woodworking projects, so projects with concrete counters, for example.
Yeah, that's the one I remember seeing.
Yeah, and so that might spark an interest, and maybe they're a fine woodworker, but they've never dealt with concrete, so then they're a beginner again.
Yeah,
So,
that's always it's a great mindset to have, like the beginner's mindset of always wanting to learn new things. Right?
And I don't classify myself as an expert. I'm just an average DIYer who's done a few more projects than probably most, but I like to teach, and so that's why I do it.
That's awesome. So at what point and how did you turn this into a business, into something that you make a livelihood from?
Yeah, so I had a background in internet marketing, which did help, but I've since, kind of worked with a number of small entrepreneurs who are trying to do similar things, and kind of showed them the ropes, and it can be done, really by anyone. But I, once I started getting these PDFs out and people started downloading them. So for instance, I have plans for all of my projects, and they started getting downloaded by more than just my friends and family.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I thought, well, maybe I'll just even ask for a small donation and see what happens. And then I kept pumping out videos, and I kept getting more people. And I remember when I got to 10,000 subscribers, a company reached out to me, a big national paint company, and asked to do something together with NFL.com as well. And so that was kind of my first, like, wow, like this YouTube thing, people are reaching out to me, and I'm able to, provide value in some form, and they think it's important enough to want to pay me. So I thought, well, I'm going to keep doing it. And I've just continued to grow the audience since then, and been able to learn so much from other people in my industry, and from the brands that I've gotten to work with. And it's just been, that's kind of when I knew it was a business, I guess, was when some folks started reaching out to me.
Is it your main source of income today?
It is, yes.
Wow. Yep. And you were telling me that in the remodel of this house, there are sponsors and people who are you're working with different product companies to do different parts of the house, and you're documenting it all, right?
Absolutely. These folks, as you know, they want to work with influencers. They think there's a great value for their money, and that we, each of us, all have our loyal audiences, and so they're willing to partner with these people, and it's I think it's fun because it's such a changing industry, and I don't know where it's going, and a lot of the agencies and the marketing companies I work with don't even really understand it yet. So there's a lot of trial and error there, and how much do you charge, and it's just, there's so much up in the air, and you just kind of tell them, and they may go with it or they might not, but you work it out, and then you figure out a way that works for both parties.
That is awesome. So your what is your business model? So you have brands that you work with. You obviously want to believe in the brand that you're working with.
Absolutely.
You want to put out crap product. So you want to make sure that it's something that you would do either way, whether or not you were getting paid. And what other ways do you make money with this?
So the sponsor, as you just mentioned,
Yeah.
and then another way is when you have traffic to your website, there's a lot of people that start with AdSense, but then there's other programs like AdThrive and Mediavine and these others that just are, they put ads on your website for you. So that's another source. And then YouTube, you do get paid from YouTube for those little ads that you see at the beginning and the mid-rolls and such like that. I also do a lot of affiliate marketing. And so I do both, software, because other people are looking to start their own blogs in the DIY niche, and so they're looking to somebody who maybe has done it for some advice, and then I recommend a product that I believe in. And also tools, for every single project, you got to have a miter saw and all these different tools. And so they can go through and go through a website like, Amazon or something like that.
So you put a link on your website saying, here, if you need a miter saw, this is a good one.
Exactly.
And then you get paid that way.
Yep. And in the YouTube description and other places as well.
And what's sort of the breakdown in revenue? So for people who are considering doing something like this, where's most of your revenue come from, and what is it?
Yeah. So sponsors is a big source.
Okay.
And that took probably the longest to get to where it is, because they want to work with folks who have a little bit bigger audiences, and they still do work with smaller audiences. It's just not as big of a payment that you're going to get.
So let's talk about that. What are the breaking points, like in your perception, and from both where you have been and where you're going in the future? Like, what do you see as kind of like the big mile markers on the road where sponsors start giving you more money?
Yeah, I would say, you can start to really, you can look for sponsors anytime, but I think once you hit about, at least for me, about 10,000 is when that's going to put you on the map. Okay. And I think 100,000 is the next biggest, so for sure.
0 is you're making stuff out there.
Hope.
Your parents, your cousins,
friends.
1,000 starts becoming more serious. 10,000 you said.
Yeah, 10,000 I would say is a lot more serious.
Okay,
yep.
So 10,000 is like, okay. And then 100,000 is like a bigger...
Yeah, and YouTube even recognizes it. They'll send you a little play button for the 100,000 mark, really? And then things start to snowmobile, or not snowmobile. Snowmobiling's on my mind right now.
Exactly.
But
I can see what. Yeah.
But things kind of start to snowmobile, especially once snowball.
Let's go
once
snowmobiling later.
Once you get to 100,000 subs.
Okay.
And I know that it's picked up, at least for my audience and a number of my friends that are in this niche and others once they get to that. In fact, I know someone who went from 100,000 to 1 million subscribers in 1 year.
How long did it take to get the first 1,000?
I think it took me about 3 months maybe, because I was at 10,000 after 1 year.
That's impressive.
I just kept putting out content and seeing what happened. So I was
literally all you were doing. You were doing no other promotional activities.
Along with each project comes a post on the website and free plans. And I think like a number of folks say, like Pat Flynn or your John Dumas, put free content out there. Yeah. It's going to build credibility. It's also going to help so many other people. And then you put all this information out there, like, they want to pay you back. And whether it's just by watching a video or maybe downloading one of your plans or getting on your email list, like that all helps out and contributes to growing your audience and growing your business. And so, just putting free content out there and putting it out more than just one place. It's more than just, a video or a podcast, on the website and everything else, just like you do. So
yeah. I mean, I'm learning. I'm a rookie at this. I'm trying to get your expertise here. What are some of the oddest or wackiest things you've seen? I'm sure you have some crazy stories.
Yeah. Let's see. As far as really wacky things.
Like if somebody sent you a picture of a project they did, you're like, whoa, what did you do there?
Yeah, let me think about that. But I get so many different folks sending, pictures of projects and everything. And we're probably going to have to take a pause here.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a conversation.
Yeah. As far as wacky things, I guess... I heard, so there's this, actually a guy down in Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
And he reached out and he sent me like some photos of this, of like his entire renovation. And at first I was just like, this is kind of different, you know, like why is he, you know, sharing everything with me and all these different photos. But it turned out that he was actually a retired police officer.
Okay.
And he, you know, started with buying this home and getting these and starting different projects. And he just loved, you know, doing these projects and just wanted somebody to share with, like
somebody who would like to look at it.
Yeah, and he wasn't. I think his wife had passed, and so he didn't have somebody to share what he was doing with, and I became the outlet.
There you go.
And so I don't know if it's that wacky, but
that's gotta feel good. You know, it's like you're basically being part of a community by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I'm sure I could think of some other things, but
why Bozeman? Why? Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Okay.
And
it's not too far.
It's not too far. And then I went to school at Nebraska.
Okay.
But I have a lot of in fact, my grandpa lives here in town, and my grandma used to, and I'd come out and spend the summers, and I absolutely love the mountains. I love skiing, snowboarding, cross, you know, all of that. And I knew that as soon as I was done with college, I was going to come out. So I got a U-Haul. And I drove directly out here. I had no idea really what I was going to do, but I had watched the DIY network.
Yeah.
And there was someone building a concrete table, and I thought it was awesome. And so I started a business doing concrete counters. I kind of learned from someone for about a year. Okay. And then I started a business doing it, and just kind of have played around with different entrepreneurial ventures. A lot of them have not worked out.
Yep.
And
I know. I know it firsthand. I hear it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about yours. I just know about mine.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this and then the other online business are the ones I've stumbled upon that I really enjoy doing and have been worth it for me. And I've really stuck with it. And a lot of the times it was always like the grass is greener somewhere else. And so I didn't stay long enough to fertilize it and make it grow.
Yep.
And finally, you know, like, as you know, with Proven and your different businesses, you've stuck with them, and now they're there.
They keep going. You get to keep going and feeding them in different directions, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So your business is obviously global in the sense that anybody can be a subscriber from anywhere. Mm-hmm. Do you do anything with other members of the community here in Bozeman that you work with?
I do, not necessarily. So I'll do some small meetups where we'll go to a brewery and I'll meet up with some. That's how you met
our mutual friend Justin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, yep. And so I'll do one specifically for other woodworkers, and that's really fun. And then also with other local entrepreneurs, and a majority of them I'd say are in the online space. Yep. But it's just like, you know, I mean, there's no other way than meeting in person that really like just builds that relationship tenfold so quickly.
That's what we were talking about, the art of interviewing somebody in person versus doing it through Skype, right? Just having that connection to people.
Oh yeah, and I mean I'm just having so much fun. I'm glad that you drove up in your Toyota from Austin, Texas, and you're traveling the country and you're meeting people, and I get to see you face and face and like really find out who you are and
meet Muddy Wagner
and meet your dog and who's just sleeping over there.
Yeah, he's chilling. Yeah. Well, no, thank you for welcoming me and hosting me. I mean, it's I feel that sense of community, and one of the reasons I'm doing this through the Heart of America is I just want to get that sense of community and that meet different people who are doing things and bringing a lot of these global ideas to local communities, right? I think there's a lot of power in that because you are essentially bringing in dollars and attention from all over the globe into Bozeman.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you are, you know, you're working here. Eventually, I know that 3 years from now, when your empire is much bigger, you're going to start hiring people. You're not going to be able to handle it all yourself, you know. So yeah, that's great. Yeah,
it's fun. I mean, I see a lot of folks who ask about the online thing and ask why you do it, and it's to scale, and you can just, your audience just goes from one town to towns across the world, and that's how I think you grow a business really fast. And this opportunity wasn't around, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago without the internet. And
not even 5 years ago.
Yeah. And so things have changed, and all of us are really lucky to get to have this opportunity, I would say.
What would you say is your number one piece of advice for somebody who is thinking into getting, starting a business like yours? Doesn't have to be necessarily related to DIY, but anything that has to do with media and content. What would you, and a lot of people, it sounds sexy. Oh, 10,000, 100,000, a million subscribers. A lot of hard work goes into it, and a lot of, really, for lack of a better word, disappointment along the way on the road to building something successful. So what would be your number one piece of advice to those people?
Yeah, I would say stick with it. There's so many folks that get into it and then they might stop 6 months later because they haven't seen any rewards.
Yeah.
And that happens. I mean, but it's if you stick through those 6 months or that year and maybe longer that you're going to start seeing rewards. And there's a lot of folks out there that are doing podcasts about sports or videos about beauty products or whatever it is, but how do you stand out? And it's because you're putting your personality into it and you're resonating with a unique audience. And you might not click with everybody, but you're going to click with the right people, and you're going to start getting that feedback. And you want to do it because, you want to be passionate about it, I think.
Yeah.
But you also are going to continue to do it because you're making a difference in some sort. And so once you start hearing that feedback, it's going to keep you going through those tough times when someone's maybe not getting as many subscribers or listens as they want. But bust through that because you're going to get there as long as you're yourself and you're putting hard work and
awesome.
Positive vibes out there.
As a host and producer of a growing podcast, I'll take that to heart. Keep going. It's early days for us. It's been growing quite a bit, but it's still early.
But you're already getting a great number of downloads and listens, and it's getting out there. Yes, sir. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Can you tell me of a time when things went sideways for you, when things were, really went wrong, and how did you fix it?
Like I had kind of just really briefly mentioned, I had a number of businesses. Yeah. And not all of them worked out. And my last business, I guess, that didn't work out was in the screen printing industry.
Okay.
And I did that. It's a low-cost barrier to entry. It's a fun business, you think, at least when getting started.
Sure.
And it works out for a lot of folks. But I got to that point where everybody wanted their shirts yesterday, and I was up working till 2-3 in the morning, and I got so burnt out and stressed out that I was not having any fun, and I didn't have the money to be able to hire anyone, and I just didn't like it anymore. I didn't like what I was doing. I didn't want to get up the next morning and screen print again.
Yep.
And so I just kind of had to move on and pivot and figure out something else. And so that was kind of a stressful point where, I definitely learned something.
Sure.
And learned that it wasn't my cup of tea, of what I wanted to do forever. So that was kind of a rough point, I would say.
Okay, cool. But now you're on your way.
I think so. You definitely have your ups and your downs, all the time. And
I'm a firm believer that the moment you think you got all your shit down,
yep.
You're screwed. You always got to keep growing, always got to keep learning, work until you're exhausted and want to be creative, get some sleep, and then wake up and do it again.
Yep. And you're always constantly thinking about, okay, what happens if the economy turns and, or what happens if people don't want to build projects or if YouTube shuts down or, and so, those are all things that can constantly be on your mind, but you're always looking at new ways to get out there and to help other people. And I think as long as you stick to your core mission and your values that, in the end, I think things are working out. So
that's awesome. What's your vision? What do you want to do 10 years from now? Where do you want to be? How many people are going to be working at DIY Corporate?
I don't want to have I have one employee right now.
Okay.
And I enjoy having an employee. I mean, it really takes the load off for certain things that I'm not good at.
What does he or she do?
So he does all of the video editing and content creation. And so that deals with making plans and making website content.
Okay.
And ideally, I think I'd be under 5. I don't want to be a huge company, but and that's something hiring and managing employees is, I have a lot to learn for sure. And so, I'm always looking to other entrepreneurs who have more just more of a history in working with employees to learn from.
Okay.
But yeah, and then I just want to keep inspiring people all around the globe, and I don't know if I want to be as big as Bob Vila. I think Bob Vila is awesome.
Well,
but I would love to.
You gotta let the beard grow.
I do, and I can grow a beard rather quickly.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to, have a show on a TV network.
Okay.
And just to be able to get my name out there more so that I can help inspire a few more people for sure.
That is awesome.
So.
Where can people find you? So your main property is your YouTube channel?
Yeah.
And it's DIY Pete?
Yep. If you just search DIY Pete in the search bar on YouTube or just on Google, my website will come up. And so...
Do you use Instagram, Facebook, and all that?
Yeah. It's DIY Pete on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested in any sort of building or just wants some ideas, like...
Yeah. What are some projects? Like maybe run through, what are your top 5 most popular projects?
Adirondack chairs, patio bars, coffee tables, dining tables, all things that you can build, and you don't have to be a master woodworker. You can go out there and do it on your first try.
And you can have the pride of ownership and the pride of process, really, of having done this, and it's something that you'll forever have in your hand and do that.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you can pass it on to your kids too.
Awesome.
And if anybody has any direct questions or anything, shoot me an email. My email is pete@diypete.com.
Well, it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to sit here with you. Thank you so much for being a guest in Small Business
Vice
War
versa.
Stories.
Hey, thank you very much, Pablo.
All right, take care.